Hi everyone, welcome to ELI, the place where you get your daily dose of inspiration for entrepreneurship. And I wish you all a very happy Independence Day. Today we have with us Mr. Arjun Vaidya, who is the CEO of Dr. Vaidya's, a new age Ayurvedic products business founded by a family with 150 years of Ayurvedic heritage. Arjun is a sixth generation Vaidya in their family. Arjun has attended Brown University for bachelor's in arts, and Arjun has been listed in Forbes 30 under 30 Asia and Business World 40 under 40. Hi Arjun, welcome to ELI and a very happy Independence Day to you also.
Hey, thank you so much for having me and a very happy Independence Day to you as well.
Arjun, I would request you to introduce yourself to our audience, please.
Yeah, so I think you've done the introduction, but quick intro. My name is Arjun Vaidya, and Vaidya, my last name means Ayurvedic doctor. I come from a legacy of 150 years of Ayurveda. Today, I run a company called Dr Vaidya's that's using 150 years of my family legacy and 5,000 years of Ayurvedic science, repackaging it to make it appealing and accessible to modern consumers using the power of digital. So we're a digital first e-commerce focused Ayurvedic products business. That's what we do.
Okay. And tell us about Dr. Vaidya's, when it was started, and tell us
So Dr. Vaidya is actually yeah, sure. So Dr. Vaidya is actually is my family legacy. It's 150 years in my family. A lot of people think Dr. Vaidya is a 150-year-old business. It's actually not. It's a 150 years of legacy, but my grandfather and great grandfather ran an Ayurvedic clinic. And that's the legacy of the business. It's 150 years of Ayurvedic clinic legacy, 100 plus proprietary formulations passed down from generation to generation. My grandfather and great grandfather ran this clinic, and I grew up with Ayurveda myself, right? So my dada ran a very successful clinic. He had 350 patients a day coming to his clinic, 12,000 patients on a monthly basis, writing to him via post. But he was a doctor. He didn't really care for sales, marketing. I grew up with Ayurveda because I suffered from juvenile bronchitis growing up. I was an asthma sufferer. I had pumps, nebulizers, steroids, all of these medicines. But I was also not cricket because there was too much dust on the cricket field. And so I was taken out of playing cricket. And that really had a sort of impact on my life. And 12 years of Ayurvedic treatment later from my grandfather, I was cured of asthma. I started playing cricket and I eventually became the captain of my school cricket team. So that's the impact Ayurveda had in my life. As you said, I went to the US when I was 17 and a half years old to do my undergrad. I went to Brown University. So I moved towards natural organic products there. I saw yoga being repackaged and rebranded. And then I thought to myself, we should do the same with Ayurveda. Came back to India in 2013, worked in private equity and finance for 3 years. Unfortunately, my grandfather passed during this time. But I witnessed the Ayurveda renaissance, right? I witnessed the government changing, the Ministry of Ayush created, the consumer focus to Ayurvedic products. And then, so I launched Dr. Vaidya's in October 2016, named it after my grandfather. His name was Dr. Vaidya. And as I told you, our mission is to take 5,000 years of science and repackage it to appeal to modern consumers.
Okay, so Arjun, here is my question to you. I think a lot of consumers are in a dilemma right now, that which way of medication is the best way. Is it Ayurveda or is it homeopathy, or is it the typical allopathic medicines?
Yeah, I think it's a good question you're asking actually. There is no right answer and there is no answer I'm going to tell you that Ayurveda is the best or allopathy is the best. What we need to understand is a more nuanced view, right? Each of these forms of medicine is a different paradigm. So Ayurveda's paradigm, for example, is to look at the root cause of a disease, to look at the root cause of an ailment and remove it from there. So I'll give you a simple example. If you have a fever, to sort of deal with the fever on an instantaneous basis, you would use a paracetamol allopathy. But to build your immunity long term and to sort of help uh, with your long-term immunity, Ayurveda is the answer, right? And I was cured of asthma using my grandfather's treatment. I was cured of this in a long term way, right? And so, if it's a chronic ailment, you need to give Ayurveda time. So, my point here is that what is the ailment? What is the reason you're looking to the science? That's very important to understand. There's no right answer. Ayurveda is the best. Allopathy is the best. I won't give you an answer. I think you have to understand each science and what it's good for. And my grandfather used to keep saying that synergistically, right, all of these forms of medicine can work together to help people. And I think the most important thing here is we need to talk to each other. Ayurveda needs to talk to allopathy, and we need to work together for the betterment of humanity, not this is better than that.
Having said that, I'm curious why they are not collaborating among each other. Why there are separate hospitals for Ayurveda, for allopathy, and for homeopathy? Why not take best part of each of the medicines, each of the sciences, and join them together? Is there any format of any such format being practiced in any part of the world?
Yeah, so I think the steps are being taken in the right direction, right? Allopathy and Ayurveda, or the prominence of Ayurveda is being discussed more, is being looked at more now in India. And so the steps are being taken in the right direction. I think it will still take time, it will still take a lot more collaboration. But Ayurveda, given the last 5 years, as well as the COVID-19 pandemic, has now become at the top of consumers' minds, right? Everybody is talking about Ayurveda now. So I think that step is a step in the right direction for sure.
Okay. And here is another question that I have. The India as a country has relied heavily on Ayurveda since a long time. Only recently the newer forms of medicine has come up, and the way we practiced our ancient doctors practiced medicine was very different. They were so much dedicated into their profession. Also, they were all. It was a way of life for them. They dedicated their entire self towards the betterment of society, for curing people who are suffering from different ailments. But nowadays, when you see the new age doctors, or in fact the entire setup itself, it has been commercialized a lot, and hospitals and doctors are so much centered around money and how much revenue they can generate out of a particular case. How do you think it is impacting the end results? How is it impacting the consumers? And what is the best way to go forward?
Yeah, so I think it's a difficult question you're asking, but I think the first thing we need to do is education, right? We need to get more and more consumers to know about Ayurveda, to get more and more Indians to know about Ayurveda. The reality is that our grandparents' generation actually knows a lot about Ayurveda. They know about Amla, they know about Bhringraj, they know about Ashwagandha. But today, when the government talks about Ashwagandha, most consumers have no idea what Ashwagandha is. And so we have a long process to restore that education, or that basic education of Ayurveda, to our consumers. And once we do that, we'll actually get a much more educated population and a much more open population to interact with the science. So I think the first step is education. And I think as a brand, that's core to what we do. Instead of just telling people about our products, we like to tell people about what Ayurveda is, what is a dosha, why is it important. All of these things are very important before you try to sell your products. So as a brand, and as an industry, whether it's brands, whether it's researchers, whether it's scientists, whether it's doctors, whether it's the government, all of us need to come together to spread the message of Ayurveda and to get more and more people to understand what Ayurveda is. Once that happens, you will get a lot of consumers trying to consume, trying to try, and trying to understand the benefits. But the basics of education need to be solved first.
Okay. Arjun, I think I might have multiple questions around the same topic, but debate is ended.
Sure.
Debate is endless, so I'll skip the questions for now. Now we will get into the personal side of being an entrepreneur. Uh, First, would like
Yeah.
to ask, when did you think of becoming an entrepreneur? When this idea came to you?
Yeah. So there was a general sort of thought process, and then there was that one aha moment, right? That most people have. And so the general thought process was I came back to India in 2013. I worked in private equity. I had the good fortune of getting a private equity job at age 21 and a half, right? Most people don't get that. And so spent 3 years at a fund called L Capital Asia. It's now called L Carriton. And at that fund, I was able to interact. It's a consumer sector focused fund, right? So I was able to interact with 100 plus of the best entrepreneurs in the consumer sector, whether it's automobiles, it's lifestyle, e-commerce, fashion, apparel, retail, F&B. And that was amazing, right? Because at that young age, you get to meet entrepreneurs running businesses hundreds of crores in size, been doing it very well for a very long time. And your business card allows you to meet all these people. So I was really excited and stimulated by that. But then 2.5 years in, I realized that the investing side didn't stimulate me as much as the brand creation side. And so I said, look, I love this, but I love what the entrepreneurs are doing in creating the brands. Like, why does someone pay more for a plain t-shirt with a small little horse on it, right? That's beautiful for me. And so I started thinking maybe I want to do something more early stage. Maybe I want to work at a startup. Maybe I want to work at a venture capital fund, or maybe I want to do something myself. So I was going through that general thought process. So 2.5 years into my job, and then I was at my father's, and at that time, considering various ideas, all of that kind of stuff. And then I was at my dad's 50th birthday, and his team from his office had organized something for him as a celebration. And at this event, I gave a speech, right? And my dada had passed by this time. His clinic was running as a dispensary, right? So he was not there, but his patients would come and sort of give his prescription and get the medicine. So his team was also there at this celebration. And after I gave this speech, a few people came up to me and said, really good speech. And my grandfather's nurse of 17 years came up to me and she said, hey, nice speech. You spoke about your father's legacy, but what about your grandfather's legacy? This is 150 years of your family's legacy. And if it skips one more generation, my father didn't take on the Ayurveda legacy. So she said, if it skips one more generation, it's going to die. Do something about it. And that to me was the moment where I said, I was very close to my grandfather. He cured me of asthma. He paid for the first year of my education in the US, telling me to study biotechnology. I didn't study biotechnology. And so he stopped paying for my education. But I had in some way made a promise to him that I would take this forward. And so that moment just made me say, hey, I'm going to drop everything and I'm going to give this a shot. And I have to do something like this.
Okay. Taking the legacy forward is one thing, then creating a brand is also another thing. But when you become an entrepreneur, you also solve a problem as well. What is your problem statement? What is it that you are solving?
Yeah, so I think it's a good question. And this problem statement has evolved. The first problem statement was that Ayurveda is got a lot to offer, but it doesn't appeal to modern consumers. So the first problem statement was repackaging Ayurveda to appeal to modern consumers. The second problem statement, which we learned as we went about our journey, was look, in the top few cities of the country, you have access to Ayurvedic products, you have access to Ayurvedic doctors, you have all this access, right? But if you look at a deeper India, you may not find high quality Ayurvedic doctors. You may not find high quality Ayurvedic product availability at stores. And so there are hundreds of thousands of consumers in this country, from a Trichy to a Muzaffarnagar to a Jammu to an Imphal, who want access to Ayurvedic products and formulation, but don't have this, right? And so in 1923, when my great grandfather set up his clinic in Mumbai, he said, I'm not going to charge for a consultation. I think consultation should be free. No one should pay to see me or talk to me. If you want to buy my medicine, you can pay, but if you want to see me and talk to me, it should be free. And so I continued this legacy even in 2016 when I took on the business and said, we're going to offer a free online consultation. And that meant that anybody in any part of this country can pick up the phone or do a video call and get access to a high quality Ayurvedic doctor for free. And that really is the value we're creating now. We're giving access to high quality Ayurvedic care, formulations, and doctors to people across this country at the touch of their fingertips. So that's the real problem statement today. And we have 5,000 people on a daily basis interacting with this. And 1 million customers over the last 3 years who bought from us. That's the value. 16,000 plus pin codes have been fulfilled by Dr. Vaidya's.
Okay, that is interesting. Would like to know, how did you arrange the funds to build this venture?
Yeah, it's a good question. So my grandfather actually left behind some money in the company. He left behind around 3.5 crores. And so that's what we started with. And I think people keep talking about funds, but I think before funds, it's proof of concept. So for 2.5 years, we operated almost completely bootstrapped, or you can say like my family funded the business for the first leg of growth. That was the real learning for us. Like when you have limited funds, limited capital, and have to make maximum impact, how do you stretch your rupee to the maximum? That was the learning process. In June of last year, we then partnered with the RP Sanjeev Goenka Group. They invested $5 million with us, and now that's what's taking us forward. But I think initially running bootstrap was a huge learning experience for us.
When you started working on this project, on this venture, would like to know, what was your first day of entrepreneurship like?
Yeah, it was very tough. So you leave a private equity job, you come from an Ivy League college, you think that the world respects you, but the reality is when you move into the real world, you start from zero, right? And so starting from zero, facing failure every single day, having people ask me, but where's the CEO of your company? And I was like, no, I'm the CEO. And they were like, there's no 24-year-old running any Ayurveda business in this country. I don't believe that. Get your CEO here. So sort of those first 2 years, those formative years where the brand was being built, no one knew about us. We were trying to establish some presence, going to promotional events myself, handing out samples of my product myself. Those were the real sort of core learning. And even today, right, I'm able to answer customer service calls myself. I'm able to pack orders myself. So is my wife, who's the CEO of our business. That's the real value in what we do as entrepreneurs. We've gone in the trenches, we've got our hands dirty, and we still continue to do it. And that to me is the hallmark of an entrepreneur. Face failure every day with your chin up and say, I'm going to fight even harder the next day. And people think that just because we're 3.5 years in and we've achieved some reasonable amount of success. And I think that we have a long, long way to go still, but some little bit of success. It's easier now. No, it's not easier. You face failure every single day and you got to sort of push and fight it and sort of try to win out of that.
Arjun, I understand that you already had a set of people who would work with you to bootstrap the venture and take the venture forward. But as you grow along the way, you need to hire people from outside. I would like to know, what is the kind of people you look out for when you are hiring?
Yeah, so I think it's a good question. I think over the years we built a very strong culture in our organization, and there are many pillars that sort of define that culture, right? And the philosophies of Dr. Vaidya is like hard work our strength, humbleness our equity, honesty our practice, happy to work and happier to achieve, 100% and nothing else, teamwork our power, and customer our reason for being. And this translates into a very strong company culture of working hard, working 110%, working with your team, but really, really pushing hard because the vision is so large and the goal is so large. And so the first fit actually is we look for people who really want to make things happen. We look for people who love their work and who enjoy their work. And that cultural fit is the most important part of being a part of Dr. Vaidya's. Everything else comes or can be learned, but I think the cultural fit of loving the products, loving the brand, loving the mission, and that lets you push that much harder. So when I call my team at 9 in the night or 10 in the night and I have to discuss something urgently with them, it doesn't happen on a daily basis, but when it happens, my team is always there.
Okay. What are the challenges you faced along the way while building this venture?
Yeah, so I think every day is a new challenge, right? So it's very difficult to pinpoint on what the challenges are, but I'll tell you some of the toughest times, right? The first is you're not anyone when you start. And so building a brand from scratch, building credibility and building trust among the consumer's mind is very, very difficult and took a lot of time for us to establish. That was a big challenge. And early on, it was really difficult. Building a strong team is very tough. When you start from zero, And I think that took us some time as well. But I think the biggest challenge of all of this was convincing people that you can be an online first or online only Ayurvedic products brand. Um, in 2017 and 2018, people thought we were crazy. Today, everyone's talking about D2C and how it's so strong. But we were very clear that online is what we want to do and we want to win at that. We have the right to win and we should be the best at that. And we're not going to do a little bit of everything. And convincing people that's the way forward, whether it's investors, whether it's team members, whether it's stakeholders, um, that was tough. But sticking to your guns is really important, right? And we always believed in it and we continue to.
I'm very curious to know what is your vision, Arjun, with Dr. Vaidya's.
So I'm not a very 10-year vision kind of guy. I like to set shorter quantifiable goals. Some of the sort of shorter quantifiable goals are to get deeper in online, to establish our presence further, to engage with many more customers, to launch some export markets. So we've just started working in the US, but to launch some export markets this year, and we're already doing that. And the long-term vision would be the motto of the company, to be the Ayurveda company that takes this sort of hallmark of Indian culture and legacy to shelves around the world, right? And so if you see my sleeve of my t-shirt, it says proudly Indian on it. And so does every one of our products at Dr. Vaidya's. And the reason it says that is because one day I want to see this mark of India in shelves across the world, and consumers buying these Ayurvedic products from around the world, and they see proudly Indian in the front and center of every product. That's the long-term mission, but I'm a more short-term guy. I like to set quantifiable short-term goals rather than saying in 10 years I'll be there. No, where will you be next year and the year after next and the year after next? That's more important.
Okay. Arjun, who is your role model when it comes to entrepreneurship?
Yeah, so I think my role model is not an entrepreneurship role model. I'm a big fan of sports, right?
Okay.
And so I think sportsmen are my role models. And I'll give you two examples of people I have a lot of respect for. The first is Sachin, right? He's someone I grew up watching, huge cricket fan, but he was able to sort of take the burden of a billion people and deliver day in and day out when there was a huge amount of pressure. And as an entrepreneur, you have your team to take with you, and you have your team's families to take with you as well. So I don't say Dr. Vaidya's is 130 people. I say Dr. Vaidya's is 130 families, and 130 families live through Dr. Vaidya's. And so you have to be at that level of performance at all times, because you have a huge responsibility as an entrepreneur to 130 families and a million plus families who consume your product as well. And you can't make a mistake there. So Sachin, for sure, for his performance and his sort of ability to handle pressure. And Michael Jordan, reasonable fan until I saw the documentary, The Last Dance. After I saw the documentary, there is no sportsman like him. His ability to win and to have that winner's mentality, even in the worst situations. And I think there's one moment in that documentary where he says, why would I worry about a shot that I haven't taken? Right. And so they were asking him, do you get nervous before a game? And he was like, why would I worry about a shot I've not taken? Like, why not? I mean, I'm going to do it and I will do it. I think that winner's mentality is something I really look up to. So Michael Jordan is Sachin.
Okay. I think we are almost up with time. I just have 3 questions left. One is, how do you compare entrepreneurship with a 9-to-5 job?
There's no comparison at all. There's no way to compare it. It's fundamentally different. Entrepreneurship is a 24/7 job, and a 9-to-5 is a 9-to-5 into 5 job, right? And even working in a startup, by the way, is not a 9-to-5 job. It's much more than that. And so I think that knowing that and not being able to burn out through that is really important. Like I sometimes have brainstorming sessions with my wife at 1 a.m. at night in our room, and that's just the way it is as an entrepreneur, and you just got to accept that.
How do you suggest our audience to start their journey as entrepreneurs?
Very, very deep and difficult question. I think, how do you start your journey as an entrepreneur? First, you get the idea, right? And I think the idea is the first step. And a lot of people think that the idea is the only step. I think getting the idea first and validating the idea is important, but then it's all about execution. There were many Facebooks before Facebook. There were many Googles before Google. There were many Apples before Apple. But Apple is Apple, Google is Google, and Facebook is Facebook. And that's because of the level of execution. And execution is critical in these times.
Any final message before we end?
Yeah, I think the final message is, it's a very difficult time for all of us, but we have to stay positive through these times. From us at Dr. Vaidya's, happy Independence Day, stay safe, stay healthy, and stay immunized. I think that's the message I can give everyone right now.
It was a great pleasure to have you here at ELI. I think our audience would have got lifetime lessons from this video. Thanks for your time and our best wishes for Dr. Vaidya.
Thanks, Priya. Take care.
Viewers, you can follow and connect with Arjun on LinkedIn by searching for Arjun Vaidya. Also, do visit their website by typing drvaidyas.com. So, whom do you want to have here at ELI for next episode? Do let me know in comments below. We'll be back. Stay tuned to ELI.